Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another live stream of Brian Plays. We have a special game for you tonight. Earthworm Jim, a 90s classic. Now, this version of the game is from the MS-DOS version for the PC. It was Earthworm Jim 1 and 2. It was packaged just as the I think the whole can of worms. Earthworm Jim is an interesting franchise. It's a beloved franchise, but it hasn't gained too much traction in the past few years. This is the first level. Alright, how's that look on the screen? Good. That cow, remember that we launched him for later on. Now what's cool about Earthworm Jim is that it all started from a toy company. If you recall, Playmates Toys made a fortune in the late 80s, early 90s with the Ninja Turtles franchise. There was not one kid in America that didn't have at least one Ninja Turtles action figure. So, you know, now it was about like 1992, and Ninja Turtles was still selling, but Playmates Toys, they wanted another franchise, and what was unique about this new franchise would be that it would debut as a video game. Playmates was betting money that kids would play the video game, and which would make the character even more popular, and then it would grow from there into a line of action figures, a cartoon, maybe even a movie. So, Playmates Company, they contacted a programmer, David Perry. He used to work with Virgin Interactive, which was involved with different games like Aladdin, and a lot of company games, or we'll say licensed games. There was even a game, remember 7-Up, the Spot, 7-Up School Spot? His company made that game, but there were a lot of restrictions. They couldn't make their own material. They had to follow strict licensing guidelines. But David Perry, he founded Shiny Entertainment, and with his own company and Playmates approaching him, they pretty much gave him free reign to develop a character that would be the next popular franchise. And he invited some of his old buddies from Virgin to work with him for Shiny Entertainment. Shiny Entertainment, the name Shiny, it came from that REM song, Shiny Happy People, because he envisioned that would be the work environment. It would fit the tune of that song. But anyway, he had the designers try to come up with a cool character. And one was like a booger man, or like a mucus guy, which was funny. But later on, they were pretty much asking for any type of franchise character, any design, anything would do. So, you know, a young designer named Douglas Tenaple, he came up with this earthworm figure. It was just an earthworm design, but he was inside of a special spacesuit. And that's how you got Earthworm Jim. That spacesuit, with a backstory, Earthworm would be crawling on the ground or whatever, and then out from space comes this spacesuit that lands on him. And now suddenly he has full movement and superpowers. And the developers, they loved it. They decided to contact Playmates and go with it. Now, with David Perry running his own company, the designers could just go crazy on anything that they wanted. They had free reign to create all the details, the story, everything. So this game is really a labor of love amongst the creators. And as you can see, the music and the artwork of this game is fantastic. I mean, all of these sprites and characters were hand-drawn with so much detail. And it was a real hard effort that paid off. Just follow the pattern here. He's a real pushover. This game kind of has like a Ren and Stimpy feel to it. It's like a lot of cartoons in the 90s had that gross out factor. And there's your little spaceship. And that's the password on the left. Now this game came out on Sega Genesis around October of '94. And it also came to Super NES. And it was later ported over to Sega CD, even a Game Boy version. And then you had the Windows 95 and the MS-DOS version, which this is. The DOS version has better graphics. I think it's the same as the Sega Saturn version, or the Sega CD. The Sega version, though, did have a couple of extra levels, and it's superior to the Super NES. Super NES had trouble with the animation, and I think a lot of it was cut out of the game. It's definitely inferior to the Sega version. This is basically like a level that, it's like a hub level in between levels, and there'll be several of these types. You're basically racing against Psycho. Psycho is the original suit owner, and he wants to get Earthworm Jim's suit back, so he can use it for evil deeds. Be an evil bad guy. But Earthworm Jim decided that once he came in possession of the suit, that he would use it for good deeds. Like he would save. The mission for this game is to save Princess What's Her Name, and Princess What's Her Name is basically a parody of all the princesses that you have to save in video games. This is probably one of my favorite levels in the game. Great music too. It's one of those games where you can actually laugh while you play. Just look at all the detail, the design of this. the controls in this game are pretty good. Like, you can use your gun, or you can use your own head as a whip. Sometimes, you can aim in all 8 directions. Sometimes I think it's tricky for Jim to do what you want him to do in certain areas. Also, as you'll see later, if we get up to it, sometimes it's hard to tell what you can latch onto. Of course, the lawyers in hell. But these were amazing graphics back then. You could tell that the developers had a fun time making this game. By no means is this an easy game. I remember dying here all the time. It was one of those games where you get to a certain area, so it's hard to grip the platform. It's one of those games that would be frustrating, but the gameplay itself would be addicting. You would come back to the game, and you'd probably get a few feet further before dying, and it would just make you want to keep playing. And I don't believe you can switch the ammo types. I think once you acquire it, you have to use them up before getting back to your regular ammo. I think in the controls too, for the version I had, you had to use a keyboard, or you can buy a controller that would hook up to it. But I think to change weapons, you would hit the tab button, but it just never worked. At least on the MS-DOS version. That's the plasma. In the Sega version, I remember one of the designers that worked with Sega. He wanted the makers to add another level in the Sega version only, in exchange for reduced cartridge costs. And Shiny Entertainment Works and designed one extra level overnight. I was able to get the game printed to the consoles. They had it ready that day, that exact day, that they were going to send it away. And you might remember being a 90s kid, if when the game came out for Sega, the commercial had like an old grandma sitting at the TV. She might have been playing Earthworm Jim or just watching him on TV, and she was eating from a bowl of worms. And I think they actually pulled that commercial off the air because people were grossed out by it. What's special about this game is that it's not just running and gunning and fighting the boss. Each boss has its own like style to complete it. Like that was just a jumping exercise. You'll see other different puzzles during the game that you have to complete. They're basically counting out the 9 lives of the cat. The voice acting in this game is great. It was rare to see a game have this much voiceover. There goes Evil the cat. After this game came out, I think at the conclusion of 1994, Earthworm Jim won an award for Best New Character. With the success of this game, Earthworm Jim did get a cartoon series from late 95 to late 96. And Playmates did get their toy line as well. Now, it wasn't as popular as the Ninja Turtles, but it was still a success. And if you can imagine, the voice of Earthworm Jim in the cartoon was Dan Castellaneta, who did the voice of Homer Simpson. Still does the voice, too. Down the tubes. I remember this being a level that I often died in. You don't want to get beat up. There are a fair amount of items in this game, whether they're energy cells or ammo. David Perry, the founder of Shiny Entertainment, did say that Hamster was a creation that took place at 3 in the morning when his crew had pulled an all-nighter. It's hard to latch on to that, yeah. And that's the tricky part of the controls. It can be frustrating at times. And they do take a lot of health away. But the animation's amazing. Remember, these are so hard to control, and it's creative what they did. Your energy is really the glass on the vehicle. The more you bang into a wall, the further the cracks spread. This was always hard to control. You definitely need to hook up to these machines to get more air. And it's very precise. You can't just go near it and it'll latch on. You really have to plug it in. Let's try to get it over here. Okay. If time runs out, you die. So it's very difficult. You can have a perfect run up until this point. If you don't know how to navigate this vehicle well, that'll be the end of your game. David Perry also has a link to another game that we live streamed, the Ninja Turtles. He actually he translated the game into another format. I can't remember the system. Yeah, he converted the Ninja Turtles to the ZX Spectrum. So that's our link of videos. The ZX Spectrum was an 8-bit home computer. The more bubbles you get, the faster you go. I call them bubbles. The ones that glow can give you a shield, and the orange ones make you go, it's like turbo. After a while, these levels do get a bit repetitive. If you do not beat Psycho in these levels, you'll have like a mini fight with him. You want to try to avoid them at all times. You get an extra can of worms. Now it seems a bit weird that you just traveled through the asteroid belt, but you're still in the same area. I think they just wanted to put that in to break up the action. "99 seconds seems like a long time, but you you'd be surprised how hard it is and how little time will be left by the time you get to your destination. You need a lot of concentration for this part. Whew. Secret. Simple boss fight. That was Bob the Killer Goldfish. Every character has a funny name. The main antagonist in this game is actually called Queen Pulsating, Bloating, Festering, Sweaty, Pus-Filled, Malformed Slug for a Butt. Also known as Queen Slug for a Butt. If you get to the end, you'll see her. She's actually, I believe she's the sister of Princess What's-Her-Name. But the ideas in this game, it really seemed like these characters and the stories were really in the developers' minds for a long time. They were just raring to go when they had full creative license to make their own game. Professor Monkey for a Head is also in this game. It's not a problem. There's Major Mucus. This was an awesome idea to have Jim bungee jump against Major Mucus. You have a rope, but he's bungee jumping with his little mucus snot line. So it's basically a battle to see whose line can break. I think Major Mucus was a blueprint for the mucus character that was created that was going to be take Earthworm Jim's place. But then when Doug Knaple designed Earthworm Jim, they knew that was going to be the main protagonist. But I think Major Mucus, they turned into a bad guy. He was going to be the original hero. It's not too bad, but now when you get to round 3, I remember dying in this round many times. The monster in the, I guess the mucus pool is the mucus Flembrain. I think he'll bite you in half, but there's really no need to see that. I'm pretty sure all these characters had toys from Playmates. It's gonna be close. All right. Level 5. I think that's just funny, just for the fact that they purposely didn't give the level a name. Just in case you keep a track of what number level this is. This game always has like a greenish blue look to it. I see that theme in a lot of the levels. The graphics in this game are a little sharper than the console versions. I think Sega CD has the same graphics as the PC version. You gotta react quickly to the enemies at this point in the game. I always found it hard to figure out where you can jump to. You don't want to get shot. Oh, I remember this. This pretty much shows off your 8 directions of movement. It's so easy to get hit though. You really have to have quick reflexes. Need some health. Alright, that's a full health right there. You have plenty of ammo, even though it does go fast. Basically every 3 seconds you waste 100 bullets. There is a secret level within this level. You find secret levels by going into weird warps. They're invisible usually. There it is. Who turned out the light? Fantastic music too. Creepy for this level, because all you can see is the eyes. If you see an eye, shoot in that direction right away. This whole level is basically Professor Monkey for a Head's laboratory. I believe those eyes are the professor's failed experiments. What Jim doesn't know is that there is a top secret experiment gone wrong in this dark area. He sees the little ones now. This dark area reminds me of Metroid 2 for Game Boy, when you're in that dark room trying to navigate. Now there's no spotlights. And that's the top secret experiment. You gotta get away from that. If it touches you, you die. There we go. Just yeah, now that's an example of what you don't see is scarier. And I think that applies to horror movies as well. The less you see of the monster, the more scarier it is. We do need more ammo. Shoot, that would have been nice to get that ammo. This level will explain what happens to Jim when he loses his suit. Just how helpless he is. See, that fan takes his head right off. You're pretty much defenseless now. You just gotta avoid any hazard and wait for your suit to come back on the conveyor belt. There's a lot more of these hook patterns from this point on, especially in the last level. Mastering the whip is crucial if you want to get far in the game. Alright. There's Professor Monkey for a head. Another great design. Like all the bosses in this game, just figuring out how to kill them is the hardest part. There you go, just getting to the end of that. If you get into a rhythm like this, you can easily push them to the end. The game does all its storytelling through the eyes and the expressions of all the characters. And this is the best way to take on Mecha Chicken. Just keep on whipping, don't stop. Easy. The more of these levels that you do, the harder they get. There'll be more asteroids in the way. And Psychro gets a little faster. Playing this game in a dark room is really crazy on the eyes. Especially when it turns white at the end. The composer of this game is Tommy Tallarico. I mean, he's worked on hundreds of game titles since the 90s. And I believe his cousin is Steven Tyler of Aerosmith. This level, you'll either love it or you hate it. It's For Pete's Sake is the name of this level. That's Pete, the puppy. Basically, you have to get him across. This is a kind of a common gameplay style where you have a computer-controlled partner that is completely helpless, and you, as the game player, have to get them safely from point A to point B. The thing about Peter Puppy is that you don't want to get him annoyed. And there's no way that this is going to be a clean run. So, the first mistake made, you'll see what happens when Peter gets angry. Though we're not doing too bad. The composer of this game, his first work was the Prince of Persia game, and he also did the music for Metroid Prime, which, if you play that game, you know has excellent sound and music. One day I will play the Metroid games. We'll start off with the NES version, of course, and I'd love to play the one for Game Boy as well. And Metroid is one of my favorite franchises. Uh-oh. Watch, see what happens. Not only takes your health back, but he also puts you back in the level. Sometimes he'll take you back far. This level, you need so much focus, it's hard to talk and play. That was bad. You gotta master that whip. Ah. Now, if you were able to go to the advanced part, the level's just extended. You'll see a lot more items and one-ups. But unfortunately, we had to take the wimpy exit. I think this is the last Andy Asteroids of the game. Of course, Queen Slug for Butt would live in Buttville. This is one of the great tracks of the game too. Not a lot of people make it this far, so you don't really get to hear this song. Although with the PC version, I know for the Can of Worms version, you could put these CDs in the car stereo and actually hear the soundtrack. You see that cow? That's the cow you launched in the beginning of the game with the refrigerator. Remember I told you to remember that cow. This looks like something out of Alien. There's green slug for a butt. Don't blink because you'll miss it. And that's the end.
You're the best.
Whew. Well, there you have it. That's Earthworm Jim. Fantastic game. So there's Princess What's Her Name, and then you get the classic cartoon ogling of the female character. Right before his kiss, that cow that you launched at the very beginning of the game ends up crushing the princess you wanted to save. And these are some of the strangest credits that I've ever seen. You'll hear the, well, just listen. Windows 95. Does anybody remember their Windows 95?
What are worms? Adult animals that have soft, elongated, often tube-like bodies and that lack backbones are commonly called Dave Perry. Worms are so different from one another.
And these are the game developers making fun of their leader, Dave Perry.
Like the tribe of this worm and the tribe of that worm. In everyday language, the name worm may be loosely applied to other.
You only hear this on the PC version and the Sega CDs.
Ferrets and blind cave salamanders. Lincoln food chain sub, blah blah blah. This is going so fast. What do they look like? All worms look just like elephants, with 2 ears and a long tail. Most of them have complex hair patterns across their back. The suit must smell pretty bad inside them. Proboscis worms also lack a colon, but they're more advanced than flatworms. Segmented worms are the most advanced because they have a true coleum and well-developed digestive, respiratory, circulatory, nervous system, brain, and teleportation module. Some worms reproduce sexually. Hermaphroditism, the condition in which a single individual possesses both male and female reproductive parts, in common to many groups of worms and rock stars. Segmented worms, which make up the phylum Annelids, have elongated bodies that are round or flat and divided into segments by transverse rings. Most are non-parasitic and are brightly colored. Some are free-swimming and some are active burrowers. Blah, blah, blah. The class Oligotechnodoodle has that project from the bottom of their bodies. The members of the class are primarily burrowing scavengers. The segmented worms consist of about 9,000 species of free-living and parasitic forms that show certain evolutionary advancements over other... Oh, sure, evolutionary. Now we're all just pro-evolution. Shiny makes no claims to being evolutionary nor creationary, whichever one might get us in any kind of trouble. The segmented worms also possess a well-developed nervous system with concentrations of nerve cells called ganglia. And if you meet a really tall, skinny dude who looks really scary, you can call him a ganglia. Social behavior. All living things relate to other
And it just keeps going on and on.
Species. In an amoeba, the relationship occurs only during the short time it takes the animal to split into the animals. In other species, such as close to each other without exhibiting social behavior. For example, mollusk larvae may respond to change in the intensity of light by swimming to the water surface. The resulting grouping called an aggregation.
Well,
Auditory or other stimulant.
thanks for watching. We'll be on again soon. And we'll let these developers close it out with a few more words.
Earthworm Jim. Copyright 1994. Shiny Entertainment Incorporated. All rights reserved. And if you use this, we'll sue you. Programming by Andy Asper, David Perry, Nicholas Jones. Original concept by some guy. Douglas, whatever. Directing animator, Michael Dietz. Animators, Douglas Snaple, Edward Schofield. Art director, Nick Rudy. Lead artist, Steve Crow. Level designer, Tom Tanaka. Ink and paint, Eric Ciccone. Mike Pilati. Cleanup by Clark Sorensen. Assistant artist, Lynn Shen. Backwards, Nash Mill. Music and effects, Tommy Love something. Directed by many. Produced by David Lumen. Development tools by Andy Astor, Dan Chang, and SideQ. And special thanks to Becky Tran. And of course to Becky Tran's twin sister. That's it. I'm serious. Oh, okay. You can go home now.